a magical, mysterious, overwhelming spirit of Control Wizard stuff and powers as came over me. So in this video, a lot of you guys have been asking, I'm going to give you guys my Mod 14 Control Wizard build. The best stuff you should be using for all different loadouts, from Master of Flame, DPS, the whole nine. I'll give you guys something for everything. So sit back, watch, and enjoy, because this is going to be a long one, but I'm going to try to make it as short as possible. If you're looking for a Trickster Rogue build, make sure you check out my Trickster Rogue build on my channel as well that I put out a few weeks ago. So anyway, man, what is going on, YouTube? The Assist Man, I'm coming back at you guys with another Neverwinter YouTube video. And like I said, in this video, man, I'm going to show you guys the best stuff you should be running for your Control Wizard for Mod 14. Now, this will change when Mod 15 comes out on consoles, but on consoles, we don't have Mod 15 yet, and we don't know exactly when we're going to get it. I'm thinking sometime in the first week or second week of January is when we'll probably see it, but until then, we have Mod 14. And a lot of you guys have asked me, you know, put out a Control Wizard build, you know, I need help with my Control Wizard, I'm not doing as much damage, I need this, I need that. So in this video, I'm going to cover all of that. So if this video helped you in any way, shape, or form, please make sure you go ahead and take a second right now and hit that thumbs up like button on the video. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, man, make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. And make sure you turn on that little bell next to subscribe for notifications so you get notified when I put out new videos and when I live stream on YouTube. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. A lot of you guys know that I had a pretty much really great Trickster Rogue that I switched over to a Control Wizard about a month ago. And the reason I did so is because I kind of missed the Control Wizard, and mostly because, unfortunately, the game is nerfing the hell out of the Control Wizard in Mod 15, and I really just didn't want to be part of that. So thank God I still had another pretty high-level character to go to, but I still don't have everything. So what I want to talk about in this video is the complete build, and I'm going to show you guys my character sheet, what I'm sitting at right now. So I'm going to show you guys loadouts for specific things as well, but we'll get to loadouts in, you know, as we going in this video. The first one I want to talk about, though, this is going to be, and like I said, I have 3 different loadouts. I have a AOE main I use all the time. This is pretty much what I use all the time. This is the build I use all the time, except for when I'm running boss. When I'm actually, you know, doing single target and I'm fighting a boss, I'll switch to this. And when I'm running support, when I'm doing like Master of Flame, buff, debuffs, heals, stuff like that, I have a full support build as well that I'll switch to if I'm running Cradle of the Death God as a support, or if I'm just, you know, running with a really, really strong DPS and I don't need to be a secondary DPS, I'll switch over to support sometimes as well. But for like, let's go ahead and get into it. This is going to be the AOE main build. All of the gear and everything else is going to stay the same. The only thing that's going to change from the boss loadout and the support loadout will be some of the feats and the powers and stuff. So let's talk about headpieces and all the gear first. We'll go right into it. Headpiece, Mana Lord's Assault Asus. This is going to be best in slot right now for us currently. It has an equip bonus that's going to give you more critical strike when your health is above 50% and lifesteal when you're, you know, below 50%. But it has some really, really good stats on it. Maximum hit points, critical strike, armor penetration, and defense. As far as best in slot right now for your armor, and this will stay best in slot in Mod 15 as well, is the Hag's Rags. It says your ranged powers do 3% more damage, which every single power the Control Wizard uses is ranged. Has some good stats in it as well. Like I said, this is going to be best in slot in Mod 15 still as well, and you get this from doing one of the Barovia wanted poster hunts. I believe this comes from, I want to say Nemesis or, I forgot which one it was, but it's one of them. I'm sure you guys will figure it out. The arms. The Terrored Grips, best in slot for Control Wizards, not only in Mod 14, but from what I'm seeing, it will stay and remain best in slot for Control Wizards in Mod 15. It says your encounter powers do 3% more damage, and it has good stats. Mostly all we do is encounter powers. So yes, we use a lot of dailies, but at wills we don't use much, and it's going to buff all of our encounter powers by 3%. Main hand and offhand weapon set. You have a couple choices here. If you want something that's just going to work really, really well for you, you want to use the Primal set. You can get the Primal set for pretty much free by purchasing it with Seals of the Brave from the Brave Seal vendor. Or you can buy what I have here, which is the Masterwork 3 weapon set, which is called the Obsidian Mistun Hayu, however the hell you say that, and the Fanged Quilpia, however the hell you say that. Now, the reason why these weapons are great is that in Mod 15, they are getting a huge buff, and they're going up to item level 560, non-exalted. They will be item level 570, exalted. Then there is a +1 variation that will be base item level 570, and an exalted +1 variation that will be item level 580. I will be switching these out in Mod 15 for the +1 variations and then exalting them at that time. I have enough ampules right now to exalt both of these, but it would be a waste if I did because I'm going to get a new weapon set anyway. But if you're looking for a cheap alternative, get the Primal set. If you want the best in slot come Mod 15 and you want to future-proof yourself, go with the Masterwork 3 Obsidian set, the Obsidian Fang set. You could buy these off the auction house or craft them in Master Crafting. Or if you really, really want best in slot, you want to go with the Obsidian and Fanged thing +1 and then exalt them. So you have, you know, a couple different options right there. As far as your feet go, you have a lot of options here too. I personally think that the Shoes of Superstition are the best in slot we have right now in Mod 14. These probably will not remain best in slot in Mod 15. There probably is going to be something better. Its equip bonus is pretty, you know, it's okay. It's not bad. I don't seem to use it all the time. It says at the start of combat, you will be surrounded by a ring of lucky trinkets for 7 seconds. If you pick up all the trinkets before they disappear, you will gain 1500 power and 1500 defense for 15 seconds. Has a 30-second cooldown. While that's cool, you could just run yourself in a little circle, pick up all the little green balls on the ground, and then you'll give yourself 1500 power and 1500 defense. A lot of the times I find myself not even using them, but they do have really good stats, is why I use them. They're one of the only boots in the game that actually gives you power. So these ones not only give you a good amount of hit points, but they also give you a lot of power, and they give you a lot of armor penetration and defense as well. You also could use the Enduring Boots in this slot right here, which give you 3% more damage when your stamina is full. The reason I don't use them is because my stamina, while it is usually full, it's not always full, and I like having the extra power, armor pen, and hit points that the Shoes of Superstition provide. So that's why I use those. As far as your neck piece, you want to be using the Baphomet's Infernal Talisman, which is part of the Demogorgon set. The Demogorgon set is by far the best for Control Wizards now after it was fixed. So you want to be using the Baphomet's Infernal Talisman, as well as your waist being the Demogorgon's Girdle of Might, and make sure you're using the artifact, which is the Shard of Orcus Wand, to make sure you get the set bonus, which will enable you, as it says here, deal up to 20% additional damage based on the difference in hit point percentage between the player and the target. This is by far best in slot for Control Wizards. It will make you do the most amount of damage, even more so than any of the Mastercraft, 3 sets. A lot of people like to use those, just basically because they have more stats on them and they have a higher item level. It's not all about item level in this game. Always remember that. Some items that have lower item levels are actually much better than items that don't. So make sure you have the Baphomet set, the Infernal Talisman, and the Demogorgon's Girdle of Might for your neck and waist. As far as rings go, best in slot is going to be the Ring of the Shadowstalker +5 Legendary Ring, and the Ring of the Shadowstalker +4 Purple Ring that I have right here. I can't show you the Ring of the Shadowstalker +5 because I have still not have gotten it in this game. But once I ever do get it, I will be using the Ring of the Shadowstalker +5 as well as the Ring of the Shadowstalker +4. Because when you use them both, they do stack. So the equip bonus for the +4 says your powers deal 2% more damage when you're 25 feet or closer to your target. You'll always be more than likely 25 feet or closer to your target. And the Ring of the Shadowstalker +5 Legendary Ring makes your powers do 2.5% more damage. When you equip them both, obviously 2.5 and 2 is 4.5% more damage. It is by far best in slot. If you do not have the Ring of the Shadowstalker +5 like me, and you have the Ring of the Shadowstalker +4, then the other ring you want to use until you get the Ring of the Shadowstalker +5 is the Ring of Offensive Action. And you can get this ring by purchasing it with Mako's Favor in the Lost City of Omu by turning it into Mako. You need 25 of those things. And it says when you use a daily power, which we should be doing all the time, your damage is increased by 3% for 5 seconds. And if you want to know where to get the Ring of the Shadowstalker, the +1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 variations comes from the Fane of the Night Serpent weekly quest that you get once a week in the Lost City of Omu as well. I've already covered the waist. As far as the shirt and pants, for Mod 14, best in slot is going to be the upper and the lower primal paints. You get these by purchasing these from the campaign store in the Omu campaign. It says the shirt, your daily powers do 3% more damage, which is great because our dailies, make up a lot of our damage. And you also get 500 defense and 301 critical strike. My pants, it says gain 25 movement for each % of health you are missing. It's not really that good, but it does give you some decent equip stats. You get 1,250 more hit points, 469 more armor pen, and 110 defense. Now, in Mod 15, there are going to be some new pants called the Shimmerweave pants or something like that, with a +1 variation as well that will be item level 510, which could be best in slot and be better than these. They do have some power and critical strike on them, but they don't have any armor pen and no hit points. So it's basically going to be about how you could balance out your stats and whatnot. So that's all the gear. As far as artifacts go, it's going to be mostly up to you which ones you want to use to make sure you have your stats correctly, but there are 2 of them you should always be using. Obviously, it's going to be the Shard of Orcus Wand to complete the 3-piece set bonus of the Demogorgon set. And then this here should be your main artifact at all times while you're playing an AOE Control Wizard build. And it's the Decanter of Atropal Essence. You can either get this from Cradle of the Death God, or you can buy it off the auction house. What this basically is going to do, it's going to grant you the Boon of the Atropal buff for 20 seconds, causing your powers to deal an additional 2,000 damage on each hit. And each time damage is done, the duration is increased by 1 second, and your damage is increased by 1%, up to a total of 10 times. What that basically means is it's going to give you 10% more damage for 30 seconds, but it actually lasts longer than 30 seconds. It actually, for some reason, lasts for about 38 seconds. So at Mythic, it has a 60-second cooldown time, which means you're going to have this up 38 seconds out of every 60 seconds, gaining 10% more damage and 2,000 more damage on every hit. It is absolutely best in slot to use for an AOE Control Wizard build. As far as the other 2 artifacts, it's really up to you. Balance out your stats. Like, I used the Sigil of the Controller because it was free, and I got 1,000 more power, 1,000 more critical strike off that, and I have some control resist. And I also used the Lantern of Revelation because this is a really great artifact. It gives me 1,000 critical strike, 1,000 armor pen, and 600 combat advantage bonus. These are my stats right now, unprocced by my companion. You can see power, critical strike, armor pen, recovery, the whole 9. I will show you guys my stats procced by my companion as well, but I still don't even have all of my correct gear, correct mounts, and as far as you guys know as well, I started up a new guild, so I don't even have the guild boons I need. As far as, like, utility goes, we only have the rank 2 experience point boon. Defense, I don't even have the boon for there, and offense, I don't even have the full power boon for there yet. But eventually I will. So as far as this loadout goes, now I'm going to go ahead and travel to my stronghold, and I want to show you guys basically the powers you use on this loadout before we get into everything else as well, the powers that you should be using, and show you, how to basically do the rotation on them as well. So I'm going to travel to the stronghold, I'm going to hit the dummies, and then I'm going to show you guys what my stats are as well after my bonding runestones are procced by my companion, and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and do that right now as soon as I load in. Get on my mount, and let's travel over here. Alright, so more or less what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and proc my companion real fast by just hitting one of the target dummies. You can see now I have Companion's Gift. You can see if I get these green things off the ground, it gives me the Superstition bonus, which are the little boots on the top left-hand corner of the tooltip, which give me an additional 1,500 power and 1,500 defense for 15 seconds. But let's go ahead and look at my character sheet now with all my buffs going off for my companion. I have 59,930 power, 26,853 critical strike, 12,000 armor penetration, 16,981 recovery, which is overcapped at the moment, and I'll explain to you guys why in the future. But basically, what you want to do is you want to have your critical strike chance at 100%, your critical chance, and your defense is ignored at 100%. When I have all my potions I use and everything, my critical chance is 100%. That happens by me using the Wildstorm Elixir Potion, which I'll show you guys right here. It gives you an additional 10% critical severity and a little bit more critical strike, so I'll use that. And by using either of the Pumpkin or the Squash Soup, which will give you more critical chance and critical severity. So now I used both of those, and then my Baphomet's Might thing will proc as well, and I will show you guys when that's all procced. You can see here now I have 30,097 critical strike, and my critical chance is 99.3. And then as soon as you start hitting stuff again and proccing stuff, it'll go back up to where it needs to be, to 99.3. And we're even going to be getting more stats than that. So yeah, that's going to give me 99.3. Now let's just go ahead and talk about the powers real fast, the rotation, the things you want to be using. You want to be using... I'll show you guys in here. You want to be using Conduit of Ice on tab, which means on RB. You want to be using that on your spell mastery. You want to be using Icy Terrain. You want to be using Storm Pillar as one of your at-wills. You want to be using Ray of Frost as your secondary at-will. I have Ray of Frost on LT. I have Storm Pillar on RT. I have Conduit of Ice, obviously, on RB. I have Icy Terrain on Y. You want to be using Still Time. I have that on X, and these are obviously control loadouts for the Xbox One controllers because that's the console I play on. And then I use Disintegrate on B. The dailies you always want to be using, pretty much always want to be using, is Oppressive Force all the time. All the time, all the time. Because this is an AoE build. So you want to be using Oppressive Force. So what I like to do in combat is I start off by doing a fully charged Storm Pillar, which I'll tell you guys about why in a second. Then I use Conduit of Ice on tab. Go in, apply Chill with Icy Terrain, wait a second till everything's frozen, hit Still Time, Disintegrate, finish them off, then obviously use your daily, and then what you really want to do is before you do all that, let me build up my daily again real fast for you guys to show you the exact rotation if you're fighting, you know, a group of mobs and whatnot, what exactly you should be doing. So let's get everything all up and running again. So I got my daily back now, so what you really want to be doing is you want to go ahead and start off now with a fully charged Storm Pillar, then Icy Terrain, then Still Time, then you want to pop your Decanter of Atropal Essence, then you want to use your daily. That is going to quickly apply all 10 stacks of the Boon of Atropal with everything else. As you can see, I'm at 10 stacks already. Now it gives me 10% more damage, and just keep going along, making sure you hit your Pillar of Power, or not your Pillar of Power, your Storm Pillar every 15 seconds to apply the debuff, Icy Terrain, Conduit of Ice, Still Times, finish off any single target enemies with Disintegrate. And that's it. Simple and plain. So, those are the powers. Now let's go ahead and check out the feats. For the AoE build, you want to have 3 points into Toughness, increasing your max hit points, 3 points into Weapon Mastery, increasing your critical chance, 1 point into Control and Action to give you a little bit more action point gain. Then you want to have 3 points into Wizard's Wrath. Your area of effect powers deal 3% more damage with 3 points. 3 points into Blighting Power. Your cold powers deal additional damage to targets affected by chill, which we will always be doing. I have 2 points into Arcane Power. My Arcane Powers do 2% more damage. And then I have all 5 points into Learn Spellcaster. Increase the amount of bonus damage Intelligence gives you by 5%, because I have 5 points into it. Now let's talk about races since we're at this part. You could use a couple different ones. I personally choose to use a Dragonborn race because I like the additional 3% power and 3% critical strike it gives me. I do eventually want to get a Metallic Dragonborn race, so not only will I get 3% more power, 3% more crit strike, but 3% more HP as well. I will get 3% more health points, hit points, I guess you could say. But I don't have it. You could also use a human. A human is a really, really good thing to use as well. It's going to give you some more points that you can put inside of your feats. But like I said, I use the Dragonborn. It works best for me. I like the stats of it. Now, for DPS, for this build, you want to be spec'd into the Oppressor Paragon. You want to have 5 points into Bitter Cold. I have 5 points into Chilling Control, which allows my Sun and Storm to apply 5 stacks of chill, even though I don't use it. But these two things here are useless, and you have to fill up another 5 to move on. So yeah, 5 points into there. 5 points into Icy Veins, which is going to allow you to instantly apply 5 stacks of chill to everything around you when you use an encounter power. 5 points into Frigid Winds, which frozen targets will take 10% more damage. Nothing in here, nothing in here, nothing in here. And then 5 points into Controlled Momentum, which will make you and your allies do 10% more damage for 6 seconds. I know the tooltip says 5, but trust me, it's wrong. It does 10, and in Mod 15, they fixed the tooltip to where it says it does 10% more damage for 6 seconds. So this is not only a great damage, increaser for you, but it applies to your allies as well, helping you buff your team. And then obviously 1 point into the Capstone of Shatter Strike. And then like I said, this is for Mod 14. This will all be changing in Mod 15. But for those of us on console right now that still want the best builds, this is what you want to use for Mod 14. Then in the Thaumaturge Paragon, you want to have 5 points into Tempest Magic. You want to have 5 points into Destructive Wizardry. It says when you cast a fully charged Storm Pillar, you gain an additional 5% damage for 20 seconds. That is the reason why I said you want to start off every single fight by charging and casting a fully charged Storm Pillar to give you 5% more damage, and make sure you use it every 20 seconds to maintain that 5% more damage. Now, if you have less than 13,000 recovery, you want to use Spell Twisting so your encounter powers will cool down and come back faster. Once you have 13,000 or more recovery, you want to go ahead and use Elemental Reinforcement to give you extended damage. When you cast a Fire, Arcane, Cold, or Lightning encounter power, you get 5% more damage for 10 seconds. Each element applies this bonus separately. I use all Arcane and Cold power, so I'm always getting an additional 10% more damage. And that is pretty much it. As far as boons go, obviously in your guild stronghold, you want to be using the Power Boon for offense. You want to be using the Hit Point Boon for hit points to get more higher procs from the Paladin's Aura of Courage, which is going to, basically make you do damage based upon how many hit points you have. Your utility, you could use whatever you want. Obviously, most people use mount speed bonus, and PvP, it doesn't make a difference because I don't PvP, and this is not a PvP video. As far as Sharandar, these are the boons I use. I'm not going to go over them. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep this video as short as possible. It's already gotten pretty long, but I'm just going to show you guys them. These are the ones that I use. These are the ones that I feel are the best ones to use. Dread Ring, that one, there, and there. Icewind Dale, and you guys could pause this video, obviously, and check them out. If you're trying to mimic this build, those are the ones. Underdark, these are the ones. Tyranny of Dragons, these are the ones. Maze Engine, these are the ones. Elemental Evil, these are the ones. Storm King's Thunder, these are the ones. Cloaked Ascendancy, these are the ones. Jungles of Chol, I don't have them all yet, but these are the ones. 3 in Tyrant's Treasure, or Tyrant's Terror. 1 in that one, 1 in that one, and 1 in that one to make sure you're getting as much HP as you can. Then you want to make sure you have 1 point in Soul Siphon, and then the last one I am missing is you want to make sure you have 1 point in Lingering Curse. Put 1 in each of these. Don't put 2, put 1 in each. Trust me, you do more damage. Ravenloft, I don't have all the boons, but when I get them all, I have already 2. I'm going to put the 3rd one as well into Undying Death, and then the last one, the Capstone, into Bloodlust. So that would be all the boons. As far as companion goes, your summon companion, the one you have next to you at all time, should be the Cholton Tiger. You want to have, obviously, 3 Bonding Runestones, rank 14s, best in slot. And your rings and neck, you could use whatever you want to use. Just make sure you get your stats correct. It's all about using your stats correct. So I use 2 Bronzewood Raid Rings for more critical strike and more power, as well as to use a Heroic Necklace of the Companion +4 for more power and more armor pen. I use all Black Ice enchantments at rank 14 in every single slot. As far as my other companions I use the Razorwood, I use the Air Archon, I use the Alpha Compies, and I use the Earth Archon. The Alpha Compies I will sometimes swap out if I'm running anything else besides Cradle of the Death God and Tomb of the Nine Gods, or I'm in Chult, because it says I do 5% more damage while in all of Chult, and that constitutes Soshin Star River, the Lost City of Omu, the Tomb of the Nine Gods dungeon, and the Cradle of the Death God skirmish. So if you're running any of those, use the alpha copies. If you're not, use the Siege Master. If you don't have the alpha copies because they're extremely expensive, use the Siege Master. You're not going to really notice the 1% difference. You can have either or. As far as it goes, though, the Tiger is a must-have. The Razorwood is a must-have. The Air Archon and the Earth Archon are both must-haves. For your 5th one, you could get away with either using the Siege Master, the alpha copies, or even the Fire Archon. But I like to use the alpha copies and then the Siege Master. As far as mounts goes, best in slot, in my opinion, for the combat power is the T-Rex, the legendary T-Rex. It'll summon the Tyrannosaurus, causing your enemies fear, rooting them 5 seconds, and lowering their defense by 10% for 10 seconds. And this stacks, which means if you have a group of 5 people all using them, and you all put out your T-Rexes at the same time, you will lower your target's defenses by 50%. So it's massive. So best in slot will be the Commander Tyrannosaurus Rex. Second best in slot will be the Swarm. The Swarm will make the target take 5% more damage from everyone, as well as increasing your personal damage by 5%. If you don't have one of these, use whatever legendary mount power you have. If you don't have a legendary mount power, then you're not using anything. And as far as equip power, the best in slot one to get, I don't have yet. It is from the Coastal Flail Snail, and it's quick action, and it says, whenever you use a daily power, you gain back 25% of your action points within 10 seconds. That is best in slot. I just don't have it yet because I can't afford to buy one. So if anybody wants to mail me a Glorious Resurgence legendary pack or a legendary Coastal Flail Snail through the mail, I would love you forever, and I'd give you a special shout out. But I highly doubt anybody would do that, but I need one. So eventually I will have that as far as my equip power. But for right now, why I said earlier I'm currently overcapped on recovery is because the only other one I have is the one from the Tensor's Disc, which gives me 4,000 recovery. I do have the one from the Tyrannosaurus, which gives me 2,000 power and 2,000 armor pen, but I'm completely capped on armor pen, and I'd rather not even have the power. It's not going to make that much of a difference for me, so I'd rather just take the extra recovery. As far as my stable goes, these are going to be up to you. Some of these you're going to want to use, some of these you're not going to want to use. I use Shepherd's Devotion. When you use a daily power, receive a buff. I use Gladiator's Guile to move faster. I use Magistrate's Patience. On critical hit, I apply a damage over time on enemies. I use Artificer's Persuasion. When I use an artifact, I receive a buff. And I use Protector's Camaraderie. When your companion attacks, you gain power and defense. I use all purple insignias. All are based upon skill and aggression. Most of them, except for that one, the Illuminated Insignia of Initiative, because this is how I get all my armor pen and my critical strike to 100%. You could always swap out some of these other ones to use. I mean, some of these are non-negotiables. You definitely want to use them. Protector's Camaraderie, you definitely want to be using that. Artificer's Persuasion, you definitely want to be using that. Magistrate's Patience, I feel you should definitely be using that. And then the other two, you don't have to use Shepherd's Devotion. You don't have to use Gladiator's Guile. I just like to use them. Another good thing you could use in this section will be Cavalry's Warning, as well as you can use the Combat Maneuver, so you can get an extra 5% combat advantage damage for 10 seconds. That's a great one to use as well. On this build, you have a lot of different options you could do, but those are the ones that I use. And as far as the mounts that I'm using, I'm obviously I have the Enchanted Broom, the Tensor's Floating Disc, the Medium Tiger, the Twigging Cursor, and the Arcanian Cursor in order to get these bonuses. You could use any different mounts you want. Just make sure that they have the 3 slots you need for the 3 bonuses. And then, let's see here. We got that done, got that done, got that done, got that done, and we got that done. Now let's go ahead and talk about enchantment slots. Offensive, utility, and defensive. If you watch some of my videos, I already talked about what I feel is the best in slot for utility, the best in slot for armor, the best in slot for main hand or for weapon enchantments, and the best in slot for defensive enchantments. I have videos on all of those on my channel. Just go ahead and look at my channel. You'll find all those videos. But in offensive enchantments, I use pretty much all cruel enchantments. Cruel enchantments will give me more power and more recovery. So I pretty much have cruel enchantments rank 14 in almost everything. Actually, I do have them in everything except for Actually, I have them in every single offensive slot. Cruel enchantments, rank 14s. In defensive slots, you should be using... Oh, I'm sorry. In defensive slots, you should be using Radiant enchantments for more hit points. Always Radiant enchantments. The more hit points you have, the more damage you will do by the Paladin's Aura of Courage until they eventually, if they ever fix that. As far as your armor enchantment, I made a video about this. I use the Unparalleled Soulforge. I feel this is absolutely best in slot. So that's what I use. As far as utilities, in all of my utilities, I use Dark Enchantment rank 14s for more movement. I feel those are absolutely best in slot. My overloads, I use Greater Black Dragon Glyphs to get me an extra 800 critical strike, allowing me to get to 100% critical chance. As far as my main hand, you have two different options you could use. I made a video about this as well, so go check it out. But I know a lot of people want to use the Fae. I don't use the Fae. I use the Vorpal enchantment. So I use an Unparalleled Vorpal enchantment. I feel it's best for me, and that's what I use, and that's what I like to use. Some people could use the Fae. Yeah, the Fae might be a little bit better, but overall, I feel that the Vorpal is better, especially with the changes in Mod 15 to Icy Terrain, not multi-proc ticking with Aura of Courage anymore, so the Fae won't be buffing that. I feel you will do more damage with a Vorpal. That's just my opinion. It's up to you. Fae or Vorpal in this slot, either or, you can use whatever you want. Anything else besides that, though, is not as good. So stick with Fae or Vorpal. Talisman, same thing. Offensive slots, Cruels. Defensive slots, Radiance. Utility slots, Darks. As far as main hand goes, on artifact powers, I use... Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is supposed to be Storm Pillar. It increases damage done by the area lightning caused by Storm Pillar by 20% because I use it all the time. So that's why I use Storm Pillar. I meant to say on the Manage Artifact Powers, you want to make sure you have Chillin' Presence slotted for Mod 14. And Mod 15, we're probably going to go away from that. And then I use Combat Advantage Bonus. You want to get that as high to 400 as you possibly can. I have mine at 399. It's not worth wasting cubes of augmentation for one more stat that you'll never see. Alright, so that's pretty much everything covered for the AOE loadout. Now I want to go ahead and switch to the boss and support loadout. I'm not going to talk about these too long because like I said, everything almost stays the same except for some powers and a few feats, and I'll go over those. So for my boss loadout now, all the gear stays the same. All the enchantments stay the same. The only thing that changes is I take out the Decanter of Atropal Essence and I switch to the Soul Sight Crystal. Make sure you're using the Soul Sight Crystal on the boss loadout for single target. It will allow you to do the most damage. As far as the feats go, the only thing that changed on these is instead of having 5 points in Learn Spellcaster, now you have 2 points in Learn Spellcaster and 3 points into Focused Wizardry. Also, on the first one, if I didn't actually say it already, I was a Storm Spell Paragon Path for AoE. As far as it goes for the single target, I use Master of Flame. So use Master of Flame, and this one you're going to be pretty much using all of the same feats. Nothing is really changing. But as far as powers go, you're going to be using some different stuff. You're going to be using Fanning the Flame. I have that on X. Scorching Burst on RT. Ray of Enfeeblement on Tab or on RB and Spell Mastery. Icy Rays I have on Y. And then Disintegrate on B. And as far as my daily things I use are Chilling Presence still. Just like if I didn't mention this, I think I forgot to mention this, but on the AoE build, you want to be using Chilling Presence and the Spellstorm one. For this one, you still want to be using Chilling Presence, but you also want to use Swath of Destruction. Increases smolder damage, and targets affected by smolder take slightly more damage. A lot of people like to use Combustive Action. I switch between them on and off, but I like the Swath of Destruction more personally. I don't have an issue gaining action points. I can apply Smolder to all targets anyway with other things. Like I said, I only use this for boss, so it's not that big of a deal. And then, yeah, pretty much everything else stays the same, except for the rotation on this. First thing you want to obviously do is have your companion procced, which it just procced. Now, this is only for fighting a boss, so obviously there's only going to be one target. This is just for single target. So the first thing you want to do is you want to apply Smolder by using your at will. So apply Smolder, you only got to hit it once, but I'm just showing you a couple times. Apply Smolder, then use Ray of Enfeeblement to apply the debuff. That, the fire thing, I forgot what it was freaking called, Fanning the Flame. Then you want to use Icy Rays, twice on the same target, proc your control momentum, then the Disintegrate. That's pretty much it. Only other difference on this one, as far as your daily power, you do not want to be using Oppressive Force on this. You only want to be using Ice Knife. So use Ice Knife, because remember, this is a single target build only. So once again, I'm going to do this quickly. Apply Smolder, Ray of Enfeeblement, that thing, the Icy Rays, Disintegrate, then finish it off with a little bit more Ray of Frost, apply some Chill Stacks, and Rime Fire Smolder and stuff like that, and that's it. Now, if you want to do the full boss loadout, what I would recommend to do is you're going to be using your at will to apply Smolder. Then you're going to be using Fanning the Flame. That to proc control momentum, and that, but you're also going to be using your daily and your Soul Sight Crystal. So it's going to go like this. I'm going to show you guys the rotation. You're just going to implement that as well. So you're going to apply Smolder, use the Soul Sight Crystal, Ray of Enfeeblement, that, Icy Rays, Disintegrate, Ice Knife, boom, done. Smolder again, Ray of Enfeeblement, Disintegrate, you know, whatever you got coming back off cooldown, boom, done. Same exact thing. Wait for your cooldowns. Make sure you're using Scorching Burst at will to apply Smolder damage so you get that debuff all the time. That's it. I mean, obviously you could bring out, you know, your Tyrannosaurus Rex. You want to be doing that as well all the time to get that 10% lower defense. But same thing, apply Smolder. First thing you want to do, apply Smolder. Soul Sight Crystal, if I had it up right now. Ray of Enfeeblement, Fanning the Flame. Icy Rays. Whatever that was, Disintegrate. And then Ice Knife. There you go. That's it. And like I said, everything else stays the same. Feats, Boons, Companions, everything stays exactly the same. Everything stays exactly the same. Now, if you wanted to do a buff, debuff, support thing, this is where a lot of things change. All gear stays the same. All the gear stays the same. As far as my artifact, I just got this. I'm going to start using this for my support build, but if you don't have a token of Chromatic Storm, then use the Lantern of Revelation. I normally use the Lantern of Revelation, but I just got this token and I'm going to start using this. I'm on my way of ranking it up to Mythic. All gear, all enchantments stay exactly the same. And feats change up quite a bit. I'm not going to go over all of them. I'm just going to show you guys on the screen. Trust me, these are the ones you want to use for your support build. 5 here, 2 here, 3 here, 2 here, 3 here. You're going to be in the Renegade path this time. 5 here, 5 here, 5 here, 5 here, 5 here, 5 there, 1 there, and then you want to go to 5 here and 5 here. Boons, you know, pretty much all the same. You could swap out a couple extra things if you want. Companions, all the same. Mounts, all the same. Everything the same except for the powers and everything else. Obviously, you're going to be in Master of Flame Paragon for this support build. Master of Flame. Powers you want to be using are Ray of Frost on LT. Oppressive Force as your daily. Always use this and another one I'll show you. And this is a full support build. While you will do some damage, you won't do much damage, but you will help buff and debuff all your enemies and teammates and apply healing as well. So it's amazing support build. Icy Terrain I use. Combustive Action I use on this one. Scorching Burst, Ray of Enfeeblement on RB on Spell Mastery. Ice Knife as well, but you don't really want to be using that. Still Time. Furious Immolation is actually what you want to be using over Ice Knife. And then Swath of Destruction, Disintegrate, the whole nine. You're not really changing too much in this build, you know. You're more or less, this is like a single target support build, I would say. That I use this only on Cradle of the Death God most of the time. It's a single target, full support build. So for this one here, like I said, I use Combustive Action and I use Swath of Destruction. And basically, you're just fighting the boss. I'm like I said, I mostly use this in Cradle of the Death God, and you're just helping debuff the enemy, buff your allies, giving them more damage, and giving them more whatever, everything. This is a full support build. You could do a lot of support with this. I'm not going to go over in detail what everything does, because a lot of you guys probably know it. But like I said, make sure you're just using all the feats that I showed you, and you're in the Renegade path, you're in Master of Flame, you're using all these powers, the whole 9, nothing really changes. But the rotation for this one is, you want to start off the same exact thing as a single target build. You want to start off, you know, applying Smolder, proccing something chaotic. I just procced Chaotic Fury, Ray of Enfeeblement, Icy Terrain to apply chill stacks, that, you know, Still Time, that's it. Chaotic Fury, then go back to your at-wills. That. And then once you have your daily up, you want to make sure you're using Swath of Destruction, which is right here. It's a big AoE thing. It's going to set everybody on fire, apply a big debuff and a buff for your allies. Just, you know, back and forth. Pretty simple. You know, it's all you're doing really is, you're not really trying to do damage, you're just trying to apply buffs and debuffs and help your team. And that's really all you're doing with this build. You're like I said, you're going to do some damage, you're not going to do much damage. This is all about making everybody else do more damage and being a full buff debuff support control wizard. So that's everything. I don't think I missed anything in here, like at all. Like I said, if you're looking for just a support build, use this one. If you're looking for a boss build, use this one, the second one I talked about. If you want to just use an AoE build, obviously use the main AoE build. If you want to be a very, very beneficial control wizard to your team at all times, you never want to have just one build. You always want to have multiples. You always want to have an AoE build, which I have here, and a single target boss build. If you want to get real frisky with it like I do, you want to have an AoE build, a boss build, and then a full buff debuff support healing build. But I stay in this build 90% of the time. I stay in this build. But when I'm in dungeons, though, I use this build throughout the dungeon. But once we get to a boss fight in the dungeon, before we go in, I switch to the boss loadout. Use this obviously on the boss. And then, when the boss is over, on the next campfire, I switch back to my AoE build. All the time. So that's it. AoE throughout the dungeon. When you make it to the boss, switch to your single target boss build. If you're running Cradle, if you're running with a DPS, and you don't need to be the secondary DPS, your main DPS can handle it. You could run the other build. I've tested it. As far as it goes, me running, full on DPS always goes faster with another DPS than me being support. Like I said, the only time I run the support is in Cradle of the Death God if I'm not one of the DPS players. That's the only time I'll use it. So I covered everything, man. I showed you guys, all the gear. I showed you guys the weapon, the armor, enchantments, the utility slots, the whole 9, the stats, the powers, the feats, the boons, the companions, the mounts, everything. If you guys have any other additional questions, make sure that you ask me in the comment section. If you guys did enjoy this video and it helps you in any way, shape, or form, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up like button on the video. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, make sure you do so as well. Once Mod 15 comes out to consoles, I will have a Control Wizard Mod 15 build up on my channel, so look forward to that. So anyway, YouTube, I know this is a long video, but it had a lot of useful information. I'm hoping you guys learned something. And good luck to everybody, man. Hopefully this build does a lot more damage for you. So anyway, man, YouTube, this is the Assist Man, and until next time, I am out.